Best bites forever.
Hi everyone, I'm Chef Alicia, and in this video you'll learn how to make these My Little Pony cookies. I'm starting off by making a short dough. For this I'm using 2 sticks of butter, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use my hand mixer and cream those together. This is my new hand mixer, by the way, which I absolutely love, and I don't normally recommend electronics or products or whatever, but I love my hand mixer. So anyway, once the butter and sugar look like this, I'm going to stop it and scrape my bowl. This is a really important step. Don't skip it. The next thing that we're adding in is 1 egg, along with 1/2 of a teaspoon of extract, and in this case we're using a cherry extract. And I'm going to mix that together until it looks like this. Scrape the bowl once again and add in 1/2 of your flour. I'm using a pastry flour here, and I have 3 1/4 cups of it. One of the things I love about this mixer is that it has this super low speed where I can just turn it on and I don't get that big flour poof. So yay, my new mixer! Once I get that bit of flour mixed in, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest in and mix it up. And this is what the dough is going to look like when it's all finished. I like to just run the mixer for a second to get all of the dough off of it. So now I'm just going to kind of go around the bowl and put this into one big piece and move it over to some plastic wrap. Depending on what you're doing with your dough, you can choose what colors you're going to do, but I'm going to do about 1/4 of this for the mane of the pony, and the rest of it is going to be for the body of the pony. So for the body, which is the part that I'm doing right now, I'm adding in 12 drops of food coloring. And this food coloring is just like the straight up regular food coloring that you can buy pretty much anywhere. For the mane, I added a bit of the Wilton gel color because it gives a really deep color, and I wanted to make sure that I had that really big contrast between the two. So these are the ingredients that you need. If you need to pause here, go ahead and do so and write down the ingredients. So here's a great trick for you, which is to butter and flour your sheet pan. This helps prevent the cookies from spreading. So if you use parchment paper or a silpat, they're going to spread a little more than if you butter and flour. Here's my lovely dough, which has been in the refrigerator chilling, wrapped up in plastic for about 4 hours. It is super important to chill your dough, so chill your dough. You can even let it set overnight, it's fine. And I'm just using my bench scraper here to kind of loosen the dough off of the counter. This is a great tool to have in the kitchen. This cookie cutter that I have is really awesome, and it comes in several pieces. This is the first piece that I'll be using, and it is the face and the mane. So I'm just going to cut a couple of these out, and the first one I wanted to make sure that I had the entire face and mane, and for this one I'm not going to worry so much about having the whole mane, and I'll show you why in just a moment. This cookie is going over here onto my sheet pan. And this is the one that I wanted to show you that I didn't include the whole mane. And the reason is I'm going to kind of give it a little haircut, so to speak, and I'm going to trim that main part off of it. For this cookie, we're going to do 2 different colors before we bake it, and for all of the other ones, they're just going to be the one main color. I just want to make sure that you have a lot of options when you're making this recipe, because there are some shortcuts and there are different ways of doing different things. So in this video you're going to learn a couple different ways to do this. Here I have went ahead and cut out the mane with the other piece of my cookie cutter, and I'm just adding it onto the other piece that we have, which is the face. I'm using just a little bit of egg white and a paintbrush to attach the two pieces to each other. And again, you can see my other two cookies sitting there, which are the whole face and mane together. I'm not going to mess with those. Those are going to get baked that way. And I'm going to cut out two more that way because, in my opinion, that's the way that comes out better. But I know some of you are going to probably like the one that has the two colors when it goes into the oven. So poof, here they are baked. They baked at 375 for about 8 minutes. And you can see the beautiful color on all of them. So that's just a foam tray, and that's pretty much what I like to use if I don't have a sheet pan available for my fondant pieces as I'm working with my fondant. I'm starting off with my white fondant, and if you've never worked with fondant, you just want to kind of move it around until you get it pliable and then roll it out just like a pie crust. So these are the different pieces. We have the face, the mane, and then you have all of these little circles. You have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so 5 circles all together. The biggest one is going to be cut white, along with this little teeny tiny one. So this is my biggest. And then the second to smallest and the very smallest. The other two I'm just setting to the side for now. We have 5 cookies, so I'm going to cut out 5 of these white. Then I'm also going to cut out 5 of the smaller circles, and I'm just putting these over to the side on my tray as I go. Next, I'm cutting out 5 of the very tiny little circles, and you have to use a toothpick to kind of poke these out. That's going to be the little twinkle in the pony's eye. This is my blue fondant, and that's going to be the color part of the eye. It's the next size down from the biggest one. And the next one down is going to be black, and I'm cutting out 5 of each of these. These are all pieces that go to the eye. Now this is the eyelash. That's that same one we used for the twinkle, and you need 3 per pony. Here I'm using the same cutter that we used in the beginning to cut out the full pony shape, and then I am putting the mane on top of it. And you have to really make sure you line this up perfectly, and then go ahead and remove the mane. If you happen to be making different colored ponies, you can just set this to the side and save it, but I'm not, I'm only making one color. So that's going off to the side for just a second while I cut out a little mane to go with it. And now here's my baked cookie, and this is the one that has the full shape. And I'm just covering it with a little bit of buttercream. You can use store-bought if you would like to. And this is where it gets pretty awesome. I put that little cutout that we just did, and then the little mane cutout is going to go right next to it. I'm just kind of trying to neaten it up along the sides, any frosting that is stripped out. And here I'm using a paintbrush. This is a dry paintbrush to just brush off any of that excess cornstarch. And I'm going back over it with a toothpick to again get any of the frosting that may have came out of the sides. And now I'm using just a barely wet paintbrush to get rid of any excess cornstarch. This also gives the fondant a really nice shine when you go over it with water. If I'm working on a larger project like a cake, I would use a spray bottle to get this beautiful shine with the water. Also make sure that when you're doing this that you don't cross the colors, so don't go from the dark over to the pink because it will streak it up. So be very careful to stay on top of the color that you're on and rinse your brush in between. The next thing that I'm going to do is apply the eye. So for each piece of the eye, I want to do the same thing with the water and the paintbrush and just give it that nice little sheen and get rid of any excess cornstarch. And there goes my little black piece, and you can see how this is forming a nice little eye at this point. Now the pony just needs to have the little gleam in its eye. Do make sure that you rinse off your paintbrush in between the black and white because it will turn your white gray. And there's its beautiful little glimmer in its eye, and this is ready to go onto my pony. I do need to turn it where it's facing me so the pony doesn't end up looking lopsided. This fondant will stick on there just from it being wet. You don't have to worry about using like the fondant glue or whatever it is. Here I'm just holding this other cookie so that I can get a visual on where the mouth and the nose should go, and I'm using a toothpick to kind of press into the fondant. This is an edible marker right here, and I'm just going over the line really lightly because this is a dark red. I don't want it to be too dark, but I do want to fill in the line so that it's more visible. The last thing that I want to do is add a little bit of glitter onto the pony's mane, and for that I am using a rainbow disco dust. This is an edible glitter. Make sure that the glitter that you're using is edible. And this is almost finished, but I do want to show you a couple of other ways that you can do this so you have some options if you're doing this project. The first thing that I want to show you is that you don't have to stack the eye. You can actually do like an inlay. So what you do is you cut the first piece of fondant, and then you use the next one smaller and you cut out the hole, and then you fill it with the color, and then the next size smaller you cut out the hole, and then you fill it with the color. So here you can see that I'm on the white. And I'm not even going to attempt to do a teeny little hole for the little glimmer, but I am going to kind of press it down and put it on top. So when you do it this way, you end up with a much more flat eye instead of the kind of stacked one. What's kind of funny about this though is my kids actually like the one that's stacked because they peel it apart like they're eating a little stack of candy or something, and I think that they would be a little bit disappointed if I gave them one like this, even though it does kind of look better from the side. I'm just finishing off this little pony with his little mouth and nose. The last thing that she needs is some eyelashes. These are very delicate to put on, so it's a good idea to let them dry all the way out before you try to add them on. Otherwise, when you pick them up with your tweezers, you kind of can flatten them really easily. I'm adding on 3 eyelashes onto each eye, and again, they'll stick just from the water on the fondant. I just want to go over this eye one more time and make sure there's no cornstarch and that kind of thing. So here's one other option for you. You can just draw the eye on with one of those markers. Or you could give it one of the inlaid eyes. And obviously this is the pony that we didn't put any of the fondant on top of, so now that you see them next to each other, you can tell me which one you like better. I definitely like the one that's completely covered in fondant better, and I also find the fondant easier to pick up and move around than the cookie dough, so even though a lot of people are kind of afraid to use fondant, I think overall it's an easier cookie to make. So here's the last option that I want to show you, which is just drawing on the eyelashes instead of adding them on in fondant. And the last thing that she needs is a little bit of lipstick on and her little nose done. These cookies are all finished. This is what they're going to look like. And I hope you had a really good time watching this video because I definitely had a great time making these cookies. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please give it a thumbs up or a like or whatever you want to call it. Also share it with all of your friends because sharing is caring. And if you're not already a subscriber, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button and be a subscriber now because you don't want to miss any of the upcoming awesomeness that's coming because it's awesomeness. And you can find me on my other social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, and bestbitesforever.com, which is my blog. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Happy cooking, everyone.
bestbitesforever.com